Okay, today we are going to do 3.3, finding the difference of perfect squares. So we're going to start out by just looking at numbers. So the square root of 81 is plus or minus 9. Okay, minus the square root of 64, which is plus or minus, 8. Right, so now we have plus or minus 9 squared minus plus or minus 8 squared. Okay, so that is going to give us the same thing we had here. Okay, but you notice there has to be a minus sign between them. And keep in mind that anytime you square a number, it makes it a positive. Okay, so technically, really, we can take this 8 out, or the plus or minus, because it's always going to be a positive number, no matter what. Okay. Let's take a look at this one. So x squared minus 9, the square root of x squared is x. The square root of 9 is 3. 4x squared, this one I have to take the square root of both parts. So the square root of 4 is 2. And the square root of x squared is x. And then the square root of 25 is 5. Okay, so right now we're ignoring those plus and minus signs. But if we were to add those back in, then we would actually get something that looks like, well, 2x minus 5 times 2x plus 5, okay, is what you would get, have to multiply in order to get that right there. So that gives us our difference of squares formula. So this a squared minus b squared. The most important thing you have to look for, number one, make sure it's a minus sign, and number two, make sure it's a squared and a b squared so that you can square both terms, okay? Even if it's multiple parts to it, you have to make sure they are all perfect squares. Okay, and when you see that, then you know that you can write it as a plus b times a minus b. Okay, and it's just following these rules of taking square roots. So let's actually take a look at a couple of problems now. Okay, so 25x squared minus 36. First thing I'm going to look for, greatest common factor. 25, 36, they have nothing in common. There's an x squared here, no x's here, nothing in common. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, is this a perfect square? Yes, 25 is a perfect square, and x squared is a perfect square. So this is my a squared term. 36, it is a perfect square, so that's my b squared term. So now I need to figure out what is my a and what is my b. So I need to take the square roots of both of these pieces. And we're always ignoring that minus sign in the middle, okay, because we just, once we check to make sure it is a minus sign, we can just ignore it and follow our formula. Okay, so 25, the square root of 25 is 5. The square root of x squared is x. Square root of 36 is 6. So now I know my a and my b, and I can plug it in. 5x plus 6 times 5x minus 6. And if I multiply these back out, the middle terms cancel because it's a plus and a minus, and I wind up with that. Okay, so let's take a look at this next one. First thing I'm going to look for is the greatest common factor, 9 and 81. I can pull a 9 out of there. So then I'm left with x to the 4th minus 9. Okay. So now I want to see, is this a perfect square? Yes, it is. X squared times x squared equals x to the 4th, because when you remember, when you're multiplying exponents, you add those exponents, okay, when you're multiplying terms with exponents. Okay, so this is my a squared, my 9 is my b squared. So my a then is x squared, and my b is going to be 3. So now I'm going to have x squared plus 3 times x squared minus 3. And it doesn't matter if you write minus 3 first and then plus, that's fine, okay, as long as you have both of them there. But don't forget, we pulled a 9 out at the beginning, so you have to have that 9 there with that, okay? So anytime you pull a greatest common factor out, it has to go at the end with the answer, just like with our factoring trinomials. And here we also have where you can factor a perfect square trinomial. So I don't remember these all the time, just because you don't have to memorize these. But anytime you see something where it's an a squared plus a 2 times an a times a b plus a b squared, you know it's a plus b squared. And the same thing here, except this sign has changed, you know it's an a minus b squared. Okay, so here, okay, my b squared is 16, so my b is 14. Okay. Not 14. My b is 4, right? Because 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, so looking at this 8, the very first thing I need to do is say, well, I would have to know that this is 2 times my a times that 4. Okay? So 2 times 4 I know is 8, so that means my a has to equal 1, which here looking at it, this is my a squared. Okay, so my a then would be x. Okay. So now I can just rewrite that. I know this is a plus sign, so I'm going to make sure I use my a plus b squared. So that would be x squared. Oh, not x squared, just my x. I already wrote that. My a equals x. So x plus 4 squared. Okay. So same thing here. My b would be 6. My a would be 1. So now, or 1x. So now I would write x and it would be minus 6 squared. Okay. I don't usually use this method. I just go on ahead and factor it. So I multiply my a times my c. I find my factors and I do it that way. Okay. For me, it's just easier. So you choose if you want to memorize these, that's fine. You don't have to. Okay. If you want to memorize these and know how to do it this way, you can. Okay, but you don't have to. This one, you have got to memorize this. If you don't have this memorized, you're in trouble. Okay, factoring is a huge part of Algebra 2 and pre-calculus and calculus. If you cannot factor, please get help. Okay. Let's look at the rest of 3.3 here. So the last of it is sum and difference of cubes. Okay, so now, anytime we have an a cubed plus a b cubed, or an a cubed minus a b cubed, so this is not like our difference of squares. Okay, these are cubes to the 3rd power. Okay, we can write them, rewrite them like this. Okay, and you'll notice that this is either an a plus a b or an a minus a b, and then it's times that difference of our perfect square trinomial. Okay, so that's what it is. Okay, except there's that not a 2 right there. Okay, because we've got that over here. So you just have to look at these and you have to know, okay, first thing, I'm going to see if these are cubed, okay, or if they're squares, okay, and if there's a minus or a plus sign in them, okay, because that makes a big difference. Remember, difference of cubes or difference of squares is that a squared minus that b squared portion. I don't know why one's capital, one's not. Okay, that is difference of cubes or squares. Too many words here. Difference of squares. Okay, we cannot do a sum of squares. It does not work, but for cubes, it does. Okay, because cubes can be either negative or positive based on the exponent. Okay, so that's why that works this way. So the very first thing, I'm going to do exactly what I did before. So I'm going to look for a sign. Okay, it's a negative sign, so I know here that my sign here is going to be negative and my sign there is going to be positive. These are the only 2 signs that change. Okay, and I remember it because it's a plus, okay, and then it's a minus, and then it's a plus. Okay, so I know that these 2 signs are always different. Okay, and then if it's a minus, then it starts as a minus, and then these 2 signs are the same. So these 2 are always different. The last one is always a plus. Okay, so I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to write my signs in here just so that I have them in there. So this one's a minus. That means this one's a plus, and the last one is always a plus. Now I need to figure out my numbers or my values. So this is my a cubed, so the cube root of x cubed is x. 64, a cubed, or b cubed. So my b then is going to be 4. Okay, and if you're unsure of what these are, list them out. Okay, well, 1 to the 3rd is 1, 2 to the 3rd is 8, 3 to the 3rd is 27, 4 to the 3rd is 64, and you'll get good at these as we work with them more and more. Okay, so 4 to the 3rd is 64. Okay, so now I'm just going to write this. So I have x, so my a minus my b, 4, and because this sign was a negative, this sign's going to be a negative. And I already have my 2 plus signs in there. Okay. So a squared is x squared. A times b is 4x, and 4 squared is 16. And that's my final answer. Now let's take a look at the next one. So that's my a cubed, so my a is x then. My b cubed, so my b is 3. And once again, you'll get good at these. All right, I know that if that was a plus sign, this is a plus sign. These first two are always opposite, and this last one is always positive. So now let's go on ahead and write it out. So now I have x plus 3, a plus b, a squared minus ab, multiply those, and then plus b squared. Okay, and don't just leave this as a 3 squared. Okay, you guys, you have got to square these numbers. I see people leave them as 3 squared, and I count it as wrong. It's got to be squared. Okay, so the next one, same exact thing. So it's a plus sign. Okay, and I know that these are all perfect cubes. Okay, so my a is going to be 2x. My b is going to be 3y. So now I'm going to go on ahead and just write it out. So I'm going to start by writing my plus. This is a plus. This one's a plus. Next two signs, these are always opposite, and my last sign is always positive. Okay, so now I'm going to have 2x plus 3y, 2x squared. Remember, I have to square this whole thing, which means I have to square the 2 and the x, which gives me 4x squared. Now I need to multiply a times b, so 2 times 3 is 6, and it's an x times a y. And then my b squared is going to be 3y squared, and same thing, I have to distribute. One of the biggest mistakes I see once again, you forget to distribute. Okay, so that's going to be 9y squared. Squared, if you can see it. Oh, that's what I get for making my parentheses too small. All right, there we go. Okay, go on ahead and try the next one on your own and pause it, and then we will move on. Okay, so let's go on ahead and make sure you got the same thing. So this is my a cubed, so my a then is going to be 4x. My b cubed is 125, so my b is 5. That's a minus sign, which means I'm going to have a minus here. These signs are always opposite, and my last sign is always plus. Okay, so now I'm going to get 4 squared, which is 16. Oh, yeah, I wrote that in the wrong place. First, I'm going to have 4x minus 5, just a minus b. Now I have my 4 squared, so 4 squared is 16. X squared is x squared. I'm going to multiply these. 5 times 4 is 20x. And then I have my 5 squared, which is 25. Okay, and that's my final answer. I can't do anything else with that. Okay. All right. You guys have a good day, and I'll see you next time.